10 cars the 1960s would rather forget, ranked from minor embarrassment to full-blown disaster. Number 10. 1964 Plymouth Barracuda, the pony car that got to the party first and still lost. Plymouth beat Ford to the punch. The Barracuda launched on April 1st, 1964, 16 days before the Mustang, which technically makes it the first pony car ever sold. The problem was everything else. It was a dressed-up Valiant with an enormous wraparound rear window, riding on economy car bones, powered by a base 170/6. Ford, meanwhile, gave the Mustang its own identity and a marketing blitz. The result was a bloodbath. Plymouth sold 23,443 Barracudas for the entire 1964 model year. The Mustang sold 22,000 on its first day. Being first means nothing if nobody remembers you were there. Ask the Barracuda, first out of the gate, lapped before the first turn. Number 9. 1966 Dodge Charger, the fastback nobody asked to look at. Dodge wanted a sleek, upscale fastback to take on the Marlin and the mid-size field, so it grafted a sweeping roofline onto the Coronet, hid the headlights behind electric doors, and ran a full-width taillight. On paper, dramatic. In person, a very long car that couldn't decide what it was. Buyers were curious exactly once. The 1966 Charger sold a respectable 37,344 units on novelty alone. Then word got around and 1967 sales collapsed to 15,788, a nosedive of nearly 60% in a single year. Dodge learned a hard lesson. Curiosity fills the showroom once. The 1968 redesign fixed everything. This one was just the awkward first draft nobody frames. Number 8. 1963 Studebaker Avanti, the gorgeous car that couldn't outrun a funeral. The Avanti should have been a triumph. Raymond Loewy penned a fiberglass Grand Tourer, so ahead of its time it still looks modern, and the supercharged R2 version was one of the fastest American production cars you could buy in 1963. It was supposed to save Studebaker. It couldn't. Fiberglass supply problems delayed production for months, and by the time cars trickled out, buyers had lost patience and moved on. Studebaker built roughly 3,800 in 1963 and just 800 more in 1964 before shuttering its South Bend plant for good. They built a genuinely brilliant car to rescue the company. The company died anyway and took the brilliant car down with it. Sometimes the lifeboat sinks first. Number 7. 1961 Pontiac Tempest, the car that won an award and lost the argument. Pontiac's engineers got clever. To build a cheaper compact, they sliced their 389 V8 clean in half to make a 195 cubic inch slant 4, then connected it to the transaxle with a flexible drive shaft that curved under the floor, nicknamed the rope drive. On paper, genuine innovation. Motor Trend even handed the Tempest its 1961 Car of the Year award. Reality was rougher. The big 4-cylinder shook like a paint mixer, and the whole clever driveline proved fussy and expensive. Pontiac quietly dropped the entire idea after 1963 and gave the Tempest a normal engine and a normal drive shaft, an award-winning engineering marvel that buyers found genuinely unpleasant to drive. The trophy went on the shelf. The rope drive went in the bin. Number 6. 1969 Dodge Charger 500, the Aero Warrior that got beaten to the finish line. Dodge's 1968 Charger looked spectacular and drove like a barn door at 180 miles an hour. The recessed grille caught air like a parachute and the tunneled rear window generated lift. So Dodge built the Charger 500, flush grille, flush rear glass, 392, built to satisfy NASCAR homologation, all aimed at beating Ford on the super speedways. It wasn't enough. Ford answered with the droop-nosed Torino Talladega, and the numbers told the story. The Charger 500 took 18 NASCAR wins in 1969, while the Fords took 30. Dodge went straight back to the wind tunnel and built the winged Daytona to fix it. Dodge built an entire special edition car to win a war, and it still finished second. The good news? Its replacement hit 200 miles an hour. The bad news? This one needed replacing at all. Number 5. 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429. All that engine and it couldn't get out of its own way. On paper, the most fearsome Mustang ever built. A semi-Hemi 429 shotgun motor hand-fitted by Carcraft into a widened engine bay built purely to homologate the engine for NASCAR. Rated at 375 horsepower, really making close to 500, it should have destroyed everything. It didn't. The 429 was a high RPM superspeedway engine strangled by a too small carburetor, and on the early cars, valve springs so wrong the motor quit pulling at 4,500 revolutions per minute. Stock, it ran a limp 14.0 second quarter, slower than a Cobra jet, costing thousands less. Ford lost money on every one of the roughly 1,358 built. Ford spent a fortune to build the ultimate street Mustang, then accidentally built one that a cheaper Mustang could beat. The engine wanted a racetrack, it got a stoplight and sulked. Number 4. 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado. A brilliant idea that buyers walked right past. Oldsmobile gambled big. America's first front-wheel drive car since 1937, a 425 cubic inch, 385 horsepower personal luxury coupe with clean, fastback styling and genuinely advanced engineering. Critics loved it. It won Motor Trend Car of the Year for 1966. Buyers were less convinced. Front-wheel drive spooked a public that didn't understand it, and it sat in the shadow of the flashier Buick Riviera. Oldsmobile built 40,963 for 1966, then sales fell to 22,062 the very next year, almost exactly cut in half. Oldsmobile kept the nameplate alive, but the bold engineering never paid off the way the brochure promised. Sometimes being ahead of your time just means the customers haven't shown up yet. The Toronado was right, it was just right about 10 years early. Number 3. 1960 Edsel. The brand that became a punchline before the decade even started. The Edsel opened the 1960s the way a hangover opens a morning. Ford had spent an estimated $250 million launching the brand in 1958, complete with the infamous horse collar grille, and by 1960 the name was already American slang for expensive failure. Ford tried one last time, ditched the weird grille, and turned the 1960 Edsel into a mildly restyled Ford. Nobody cared. Ford pulled the plug on November 19, 1959, weeks into the model year. Just 2,846 of the 1960 models were built before the lights went out. Only 76 were convertibles. Ford spent $250 million to create a word that means flop. That's the most expensive vocabulary lesson in corporate history. Number 2. 1963 Chrysler turbine car. The future of driving sent to the crusher on purpose. This is the one that actually could have changed everything. Chrysler built 55 jet turbine cars with gorgeous Ghia-built Italian bodies, powered by an engine that ran on kerosene, diesel, or even tequila, with a fraction of a piston engine's moving parts. Then they did something audacious. They loaned 50 of them to 203 ordinary families across the country who drove over 1 million miles. People genuinely loved them, but the turbines were murderously expensive to build, guzzled fuel, and couldn't meet incoming emissions rules. So when the program ended, Chrysler took 46 of the 55 cars and deliberately crushed and burned them, partly to dodge import taxes. 9 survived. Chrysler handed the public a glimpse of the future, then set it on fire in a parking lot. The most heartbreaking flop on this list isn't the worst car, it's the best one. Number 1. Chevrolet Corvair. The flop so big it rewrote the law. No car failed harder or mattered more. Chevrolet's rear-engined, air-cooled Corvair launched in 1960 as a clever import fighter, and the sporty turbocharged Monza and Corsa versions genuinely sold. Then, in 1965, a young lawyer named Ralph Nader opened a book called Unsafe at Any Speed, with a chapter savaging the Corvair's swing axle handling. What happened next buried the car. GM got caught hiring private detectives to dig up dirt on Nader. Its president was hauled before the Senate to apologize under oath. The scandal triggered the 1966 federal auto safety laws and created the agency we now call NHTSA. Sales cratered and the Corvair limped to its grave in 1969. Here's the twist that makes it perfect. In 1972, the government's own study finally tested the thing and cleared it, ruling the Corvair no more dangerous than any rival. The verdict arrived 3 years after the car was already dead. Detroit's biggest flop of the decade turned out not to be guilty. It just didn't live to hear it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.